Hey guys, I'm Alexis Bacani, and welcome to our second episode of A Little Bit of Life. Today we are with Mr. Symmonds, one of the chillest teachers I've ever had. So I just want to thank Mr. Symmonds for joining us here today.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks.
So today's topic would be about managing your mental health and stress in school. And for those of you who don't know what stress is defined as the degree to which you feel overwhelmed or unable to cope as a result of pressures that are unmanageable. And with stress comes physical, emotional, and psychological um, stress. And some physical stress that can happen is headaches or if you don't get enough sleep. That is like a big factor of knowing that you're already stressed. And physical and emotional strains would include confusion and anxiety. And anxiety is our body's natural response to stress and the way we feel overwhelmed. And you guys actually sent us a questions for this topic, and it is, how can students have a decent mental health state while also getting good grades at school? So, for me personally, being a student, I would say when I get stressed, I first acknowledge when I'm stressed and overwhelmed. I know it can be hard, especially during this time, where we've been on distance for like 7 months and some of us are switching to hybrid and everything's changing. It can cause a lot of stress to students with the new schedule, which me as a student can understand that. So I would say just take a breather, whether it's walking around your house for 5 minutes or just, taking a walk or even just like stepping away from your work or even the situation. I feel like that's very, very important. Or if you have so much homework that you procrastinated on, you have to finish it. Just know that, which sometimes I am guilty of doing. Um, I feel like that could also be a learning lesson to your stress and your situation and why you're being stressed is to not hold a lot of things off. That's what I've learned. But yeah, I think it's very, very important to know when you are overworking your body to the point where you're staying up to 3 a.m., doing homework and getting everything turned in and only getting 2 hours of sleep and repeating the process the next day. That can be dangerous for your mental health and your physical health because you're overexerting your body to a point where that's why you get dizzy and all that stuff. And you have to make sure that you get your work done, but you also take care of yourself. And I think that's very, very important, especially during this time. And when we're switching to hybrid, that's a bigger change. And I think that's something important to know is with this change, find ways to kind of cope with the situation and take it in and say, we can get through this. We've been through so many challenges within these 7 months, and like we're already 7 months within the school year, and the school year is almost done. So I think we all accomplished something, and it's time to learn to accomplish more things and find the positive in everything because not everything can be negative. There's always something positive within a day. So, Mr. Symmonds, I want to ask you what your response to this question would be for students to hear it from a teacher's point of view.
Yeah. And can I just tell you these are skills for life, right? Like the good grades, right? School is essentially your job right now, right? And so like you definitely want to be like learning these skills and healthy strategies and coping mechanisms now, right? I think the most important thing you can do at this point is to like really be aware of what things you can control and what things you can't control, right? So like you have absolutely no control over the school schedule or that we're in a pandemic or any of that kind of stuff, right? What you can control are things like, you know, training your sleep schedule and when you choose to do your assignments and that kind of thing, right? And what I've noticed a lot with students who are flailing and almost drowning sometimes is, yeah, sometimes there's too many assignments, but a lot of times as well, it's students are in that, like my own child says, do today means do today, right? And it's that can get really unhealthy, right? Because you kind of put yourself in like that endless loop, like you mentioned about staying up till 3 a.m. to do your assignments, right? Well, then when class rolls around at 7 a.m. the next morning, you're too tired for it, right? So you kind of sleep through it, and then you have more work to do, and it just piles and piles and piles, right? So you've got to make sure that you're consistently controlling, the things that you have control over, because if you lose control of that, and then you don't have control over anything else, that's when you start to feel like helpless and in danger and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's very important as well for students. And Mr. Simmons, I want to ask you, since you're a teacher and you have to go to school for hybrid, how will you help students transition, those who are coming back to school and those who are staying online?
I really try to, like, I pride myself on a safe and inviting and welcoming environment for students, right? I am at the school today, as you'll notice, and I've been really trying to like make sure that my room is bright and colorful and has lots of comfortable positions to be in. I recognize students will only get to be in the one position, but I hope that it's a comfortable and nice one, kind of thing. But also trying to structure things in such a way that my students who are remaining online can maybe feel like they're part of the classroom. Like I've been kind of futzing around with my camera to, like, where could I put it to where it would might feel like you were in a seat here, right? Because I want everyone to feel like welcome and included. And I get, like, whether or not you're coming back to school might not be one of those things under your control. Like your parents could have decided that for you, or your parents' situation, right? And so like as a teacher, it's definitely my goal to make sure that nothing that a student can't control is really infringing on their mental health.
That that's a great example of knowing that teachers are here to help their students and they don't want it to feel like they're going through it alone. So I think that's very nice of you, Mr. Simmons, to try to find a way for for other students who aren't going back to school to feel like they're in a classroom because like you said, it can't whether they're going back to school or staying distant, it doesn't technically mean it was their choice whether to return
Right.
or not. You might have some students that want to return, but because of their parent situation or something else in their household, they can't go back to school. So I think that's me as a student. That's very very kind to do, to place for the camera where it feels like you're in a class. So I think that's very very nice to have for your students, and I really really appreciate that. So I think we're gonna go to break and then we'll come back. So tune in for our second topic of the day.
Sounds great.
And welcome back to A Little Bit of Light. So first I want to give my shout outs to Kayleen and Tristan for supporting this live show with me and Mr. Symmonds. And I also want to give a shout out to Miss McLean and Jose for, helping produce this and for streaming it. It really means a lot. So next I want to touch upon the topic of even though us students, just as stressful as we are, we also have to consider the fact that teachers are also human and they also experience things like stress and anxiety. Since not, I know a lot of us don't turn on our cameras, so most of our teachers talk to, a blank screen. So I want to ask Mr. Symmonds, how do you as a teacher manage your stress levels during school and during this distance learning?
Okay. First of all, since you brought it up, I want to appreciate all students who turn on their cameras, right? Because really, it does help us as teachers. Like I'm not trying to like babysit you or like make sure you're doing your. No, I like to see you react to my teaching, right? Because like if you don't look like you're getting it, like oh that kid in the camera doesn't. That's so much easier for me, right? Than waiting for you to type out a question, right? And a lot of my students have been just absolutely wonderful about reaching out and interacting and that kind of thing. So for those of you who are doing that, like we teachers just absolutely appreciate you for that, right? Um, on my own time, and I'm sure that a lot of you guys would notice this. There, you can kind of separate coping mechanisms into like healthy and unhealthy, right? Like, for instance, late night Taco Bell runs once in a while is fine. Every night, unhealthy, right? um, and so I've been trying to like because there's a lot of stress this year, right? So I've been reaching out and trying to figure out new ways to keep myself occupied because Netflix is unhealthy, too much of it, right? I actually brought it. One of the things that I got recently that I'm going to recommend to everyone are these adult coloring books. Have you seen these things? Right? Um, like Mrs. Symmonds got me this one, and it's just like otters and stuff. But this thing takes me like 6 hours, right? And so you don't really have to even pay attention to it. You're just like, okay, yeah, I'm doing this, but keeping yourself active. Mrs. McLean has one too, right? And it's so good to have something that you can kind of focus on because your brain really does need that. Like when you're rewatching Parks and Rec for the 17th time, right? It's nice, and I like it when April and Andy finally get together, right? But like it's not using my brain enough um, to get out of that stress. Like I think our instinct when we're feeling stressed is to shut down, and that's actually really bad, right? Because then we just want to stay shut down, and when things start piling up, we get more stressed, right? And so you want to make sure that you're keeping active, and you know even if it's just a little bit to manage your stress, kind of thing.
I've never seen one of those coloring books before. I've only seen like the little kid ones. So I think that's pretty that's pretty
It's so
unique
much
to have.
fun,
And
right? And I got like these little tiny markers that like get in the lines and everything, so it's fun.
Miss
Right.
McLean showing us. I also have another question, a follow-up question to what
Yeah.
you said. During class, I sometimes tend to get stressed, when the teacher's like talking, and I really like the raised hand thing, like the thing on the icon and stuff. So I think that's really helpful. But is there ever a time where when you're teaching, you like either forget something you like touched on a lesson, or like you ever just get stressed like teaching? Do you ever like hide it, or you manage it in that situation?
Here's the thing. Like, I don't like to try to hide my stress, right? Because a, I think that's an unhealthy coping mechanism. But B, because I think it's important for students to see me like work through that, right? Like I have anxiety disorder, and a lot of my students know about that, right? Because I want them to see like, hey, it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to reach out for help, and it's okay to not be perfect all the time, right? Um, I also have ADD, right? And so a lot of times when I'm teaching to a blank screen, I'll get distracted by something in my own house and completely forget where I was, right? If you're in my class, you have seen one of my many, many pets um, ignore, like, jump into the stream, and then I'm just, I completely forgot where I was, and I have to recover, right? And that's, but I think that's valuable for kids to see, right? Like, we are not perfect, and so, like, as you are on your stressful path to adulthood, like, please don't feel like you have to be perfect, because we're all just struggling through together.
Yeah, and I think that's very important for us students to see that like an adult is also going through it because it's very stigmatized, especially like in our age group, you know, like we never really like take time to focus on our mental health. It's always like the world feels like it's going fast. Like, you know,
Oh yeah.
when you're in a time where you're doing all your homework and then at one time it can be 1 p.m. and then next thing you know it's 1:30 a.m. in the morning and you know it's time for you to go to sleep. So I
Right.
think that you're a very, very good role model for, you know, students like me to see that it mental health is always going to be a part of your life. Like it's not going to be something temporary and something to just hide away. Like one day you're going to have to face it. And you know, you don't have to hide it because, you know, your mental health can be your biggest superpower. You can change the way you view it by just like, you know, shifting on it. Like if you, like you said, like you're stressed, you can be like, I'm stressed for this, but I'm not going to be stressed if I finish it. Like your stress is going to go away once you finish it. So I think, you know, shifting the way you look at your life and the way things happen can really change the view and the way you view your entire life. So yes. And
Yeah.
I want to thank Mr. Symmonds, Ms. McLean, and Jose for helping me produce and stream this live show. It's very, very important to talk about mental health. And thank you for all of you guys who have been watching during this whole time. Shout out to Kayleen and Tristan for all the support. And I'll see you guys next time. And don't forget, at the end of the day, there will always be a little bit of light. Bye.